And I want to show you some of the sculpture that I did in the past. So maybe I should start with that one. So otherwise I forgot like I did yesterday. So I show you. So this is one of the sculpture that I did for in 2017 for Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, and you know, the design was based on Shun Kim, really good friend and amazing designer. This was one of, I did it like 2 years before the movie came out, so I didn't even know what was about the movie, and but at the end, you know, I can see the translation of my sculpture into the big screen, and it's pretty satisfying. It's really interesting to see the translation of the character that you develop with the designer, with the director, and then it's pretty cool to see the process at the end of the run. Then I'll show you another one. So I put it here. Hope it doesn't fail. So this one was Wanda, and you know, at the beginning, you know, we went in a direction with the face, and you know, face a little bit more, let's say, realistic. I still prefer this one than the final one. No, you can see that they capture pretty well. In the movies is really, I can recognize all the stuff that I put in the sculpt into the big screen. Then here we have the main character, Spider-Man. So this was a develop of the pose, develop on the, you know, the movie start in one direction, then there was a change with the art director, with the production designer, then the directors, they went in another direction, and then we start to develop the character. The pose was tweaked a couple of times. For this, yesterday I showed you the way I did the armature. This was one of the reasons why I was able to tweak the pose easily instead to break everything, and then I was able to preserve part of the sculpture, and then we came up with this kind of you know, final pose. It's pretty iconic, pretty, you know, classical comic book style. Was some problem on the face. I was trying to find a nice rhythm with the mask, with the logo. You know, it was kind of tricky, but I found a different solution to make sure that, you know, everybody was happy. This I did it, you know, for the Black Lives Matter, and you know, I always loved the African design. I always loved this kind of elongated shapes and the sculpture, and you know, obviously the subject is pretty important, you know, since you know, a long time, and I think it's time that we're gonna make some changes, and you know, I kind of like the, you know, obviously my personal interpretation, personal style, but you know, it was a fun sculpture to do. Unfortunately, didn't record the process. You know, I'm planning to record a more and more process of my sculpture. Then I have this is another one that I have to finish. It's about, you know, pretty much the same subject, and yeah, I don't want to be too political, but and this is another that I'm working on. Usually, you know, when I do sculpting, I try to work on a different sculpture at the same time. So this is another that I'm working on, that I'm almost there. You know, I always love this kind of Egyptian bulls, and you know, this is one of the, you know, it's one of the latest sculpt that I did. You know, for myself. You know, for production, I'm still working on you know, different projects, and you know, I've obviously when you work on movies, you know, it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy, and then most of the time you don't have the energy to do your own stuff. So it's pretty, I don't know, it's pretty tough sometimes to get the motivation. You know, this was a piece that I got inspired by the hieroglyph that they are on the pyramids, and you know, I kind of like this stuff. Try to give a personal take to already something that is already super designed. Another personal project. You know, I did this a couple of years ago. I love big cats. I have a pretty good collection of skulls, skulls and skeletons. I'm gonna get a lion soon these days, so it's on the way. And this was a mountain lion. Usually I go with a bike, and then we have a lot of mountain lions around. So, and I saw once it was really far from me, like 100 meters. But those animals are beautiful. So I try to capture the pose, the attitude of this big cat. Another personal piece, like a basketball player. I really like this kind of elongated shapes. I try to push the boundary of the shapes, the form, the anatomy. Try to give a graphiness to the overall feeling of the sculpt. Bust, based on Mike Mignola. I love is the simplicity design. The graphiness. I try to capture in the sculpt. I like to do sometimes small busts, small sketches for me, and I work in the film industry with a lot of designer. This was a commission that they asked me to do. It was based on Alejandro Jodorowsky, El Topo, and I came up with I put the design here, the logo, and it was a collectible. They did only 200 pieces, I think. It was kind of it's pretty dusty. I just took it off from the shelf, and it was pretty interesting because I never did something this kind of. This was one of the first commission, let's say, pretty much realistic. Maybe I can show you the sculpt closer. And we went in to 2 or 3 interaction with the pose, because we were showing to Alejandro, and try to capture the essence of this character, and this pretty iconic pose in the movie. Pretty cool movie. If you guys have the opportunity to maybe check it out. And then what else? And then I show you. I did some stuff related to the Disney characters from Robin Hood. It's one of my favorite Disney movie, and I kind of like the shape, the design of Milk. Try the simplicity. Try to capture, and it's always kind of challenging to try to capture the character, not only from one view but from different view, and but try to keep this kind of graphiness that the designer was trying to catch in his drawing. Obviously, I took it from one drawing. You start to analyze the way how you kind of simplify the overall shape, the overall design, and try to apply into your three-dimensional sculpture. I start to implement, the scanning digital file. So basically, I scanned the real sculpture. It was a little bit bigger to try to scale it down and to make sure that I have the same feeling. And it was a kind of nice process. Now I'm implementing this kind of stages in my workflow for the movies. Sometimes I scan the sculpture. I work on some detailing, for example, for the face. Most of the time when I do stuff for the movie, I do a bigger bust like this, pretty much this size. I scan it, and then I work on ZBrush to try to define the overall feeling. And then when the director is happy, I can kind of print it out and bring it to the right size with the full figure, and then we go from there. I want to try to bring the sculpture to another level. So I'm gonna start to put more detail. Yes, I was thinking about the pose. Maybe I'm gonna implement, the mask, because I was thinking to put the mask on his face, but I think it's more interesting if maybe he's holding the mask with his left arm, almost ready to go, and then so I can kind of keep his face pretty clean. And then I'm gonna start to work some on the lower part of the legs, the shoes, the body. And sometime when I start to tighten up the sculpture, I start to work in an area that I want to bring the spectator to look around. So obviously the face, I can spend just a little bit more time on the face. Maybe the helmet, is pretty recognizable for the design, for what the subject is. And then I was looking yesterday, maybe I'm gonna reduce a little bit of the jacket here. because I think it was I pushed a little bit, it's a little bit too long. And then obviously when I like to work with different sculpture at the same time, because it can allow me to bounce back and forward between the sculpt. So sometimes I leave it there for a couple of days, or even some of those I have chefs there that maybe I have sculpt that I did like 4 or 5 years ago, and maybe they're gonna stay all in the the kind of stage, because I already resolved what I wanted to tell with the sculpture. It happened that or maybe you lose interest, maybe you wanna move on. And it happened a couple of times, Especially now when I do this kind of stage of the sculpture, I start to work a little bit more in in some area, and then start to rotate, so I can see the sculpture from different point of view, and make sure that everything kind of flow together, works together, start to make sense. For example, yesterday, for example, cutting the jacket, we start to get a little bit more elongated, the character, and I have some reference here behind the camera, so I'm gonna use the reference for make sure that I can kind of aim in the same ballpark of the design of then maybe some I'm rechecking the proportion. And I'm gonna edit in the video the video that I did yesterday and the video that I'm doing today. Maybe let's see if I feel it. Maybe I'll do one tomorrow. I'm not sure yet, because I have other stuff to do, and then I'm in the middle of too many things, and I'm always happy to show my approach, but let's see if I have time. And I'm taking a different tool, a little bit more solid, because that one it's a really nice knife, almost like a wooden knife, but it's really thin, and it can break pretty easily. I think I have to replace it. So I was thinking about the mask. Maybe I can put the mask here, so I just do the volume of just do the shape. Then make sure that the collar, usually they have this they're kind of big jackets. Always have to protect the firefighter. Then sometimes when I'm doing the costume, I try to make it believable. I'm trying to think about how the structure, why they did the costume, why they did this jacket in a certain way, because there's a meaning and why obviously it has to protect the firefighter. So you have to think about the weight of the fabric, the weight how the character is, so it's pretty. And I start to add a little bit more detailing there, maybe start to get the big fold in here. Then you can play with the shape of the material too. Then the shape of the mask. this all matter, you know. Sometimes I'm pushing the clay, sometimes I'm carving, sometimes I'm kind of adding a little bit more. So it's a back and forward, you know, with this kind of procedure. Sometimes I'm pushing in, then I start to think about, you know, obviously the weight of this arm. Then I was working here, and then I start to work a little bit more on the other side, just to compensate the thickness of the jacket. Then go work on maybe a little bit on the face. So think about the muscle structure, but think about, you know, the relationship between, you know, the face, the jacket, you know, all the elements that they're gonna, you know, emphasize and show the character. Make sure that, you know, everything starts to get believable. You can always push some areas and, you know, and step back in some other areas. It's all a balance, you know, between elements. Maybe work a little bit more on the profile of the helmet. Then it's pretty big compared to the head, you know. Obviously, maybe the back here, I can scoop it a little bit and create a nice, maybe a nice fold in there, in the back. So those are the things that, you know, usually I tell my students, try to approach, you know, the character in a way that you start to analyze, you start to digest who is this character, who is this the story behind this firefighter. To try to express, you know, in your sculpture, try to express what this guy is feeling. You know, obviously. Those guys are brave people, and then so you have to try to bring this emotion into your piece. And I'm having an online class. I just, you know, usually it took me like a couple of years to set it up in a way that I hope it's going to be easier for the student to follow my approach. And then I just start the first class basically online. I did it like a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago. And you know, I prepared this. It took me like 2 years to prepare all these elements to put in the class. And then I start to see some of the result, because the student, they start to send me all the assignment, and then they send me the assignment and I do like a critique. The results are pretty incredible. It's pretty nice to see people they really start to get what I'm trying to tell them, and they're really good in following the let's say the method that I kind of develop, you know, to do my own stuff. So it's even good for me to see if what I'm doing and what I'm telling, you know, makes sense. Sometimes, you know, you kind of doubt what you're doing. Maybe is making sense for other people, but looks like the student, they are getting pretty good result, so it means that the stuff that I'm telling them start to make sense for them, and it's really gratifying. I was really gratified to see people that they kind of follow your way or your thinking. That's nice, and then they're gonna develop their own thinking. Then, as I told you yesterday, if the wire is, it's coming out, you can always push it in. So you can take some pliers and then kind of, bend it inside the sculpture. Then obviously I'm thinking about, the next step to cast it. So when I'm working on a sculpture, I try to give the pose. Obviously, try to give some dynamic to the pose, some lines, something. Little bit more unique from one sculpt to the other one, and make sure that but at the same time try to make my life easy when I do the cast. So when I'm sculpting, I'm thinking about the final cast too, how I'm gonna cast it, because I'm casting all the sculpt that I show you. I cast everything myself. Look at the reference, and then I want to do maybe some wrinkle here. Pocket there. And sometimes I kind of like to, most of the time when I do my stuff, it's I kind of like it to keep it on a rough stage, but try to make sure that everything makes sense and nothing is out of place. So I like the sculpture, more. I like the sculpture of some of the sculptors that I really admire, like Trubetskoy, really rough, really kind of loose, almost like a painting, almost like a Sargent painting, but in the three-dimensional form. For example, here, if I want to cast it, I have to. So when I'm sculpting, I'm thinking about, I have to cover this area here, because otherwise it's gonna become an undercut. There are area that when the silicone, because I do a silicone, most of the silicone is gonna go all over the sculpture, and it's gonna be problematic for me to demold it, to open the mold. So you have to think about, try to find a solution that it's easy for you later. Kind of makes your life easier when you do the cast. Try to don't lose the freshness of what you had yesterday. The first approach most of the time is the really intuitive. It's the one that you feel it your soul. So try to lose that one when you start to clean up the overall shape. Sometimes it's the tricky part because it's easier to overwork one area. Try to work on, for example, I'm working now on the hand, but I don't want to put too much effort here right now, but maybe later I'm gonna come back and redefine more, because the hands and face, they are one of the things that you go first there to check it out. So our attention goes more here, and then the general feeling of the pose. So the pose has to be kind of strong. Should be strong. Should be a nice silhouette, nice shapes, nice design, nice rhythm. But it shouldn't get destroyed by a weak face or weak hands. So try to make sure that everything is in balance. Everything is in a nice harmony. And that if you get that one, you know, it's pretty. You accomplish a pretty good things, you know. Sometimes I see a lot of sculpture, a lot of even work in you know, in the industry, that super works, really technical, really nice stuff on the technical point, but then there is no pose, and there is no shape, there is no silhouette, you know. Sometimes when I sculpt, I look even to, I look. One of the first things, you know, maybe yesterday you saw me that I was turn around, check the overall. It's more about the shape, the silhouette, you know, the form, how the form is gonna react in the overall. Make sure that you know, there is a line of force, there's a movement, there's a feeling of you know, rhythm, the weight, you know. Most of the time, you know, when I go in an area that are pretty small, or they can get damaged, I kind of hold, you know, under, for example, if I do the rim of the helmet, you know, try to hold underneath and then kind of put pressure on the top. If I want to make sure that, you know, the line is kind of clean. So support your sculpture. And start to define it to be more the, you know, the jacket. So most of the time here they're kind of tight at the wrist area, a little bit more puffy. Because obviously you need to have a lot of movement, so it's not super bulky there. So here it's more tight because it has to protect, you know, from the fire. So think about that one too, you know. Then obviously here there's a compression, so maybe the mask could go a little bit more in the other direction. I put a little bit more volume there for the arm. So it has more of this kind of angularity, and it feels pretty good on the side. So it doesn't lose the shape, the volume of the arm underneath. Like kind of give a nice rhythm. And maybe start to tighten up here. And then they have all these belts, all these the buckle. Maybe here I can start to put the buckle here. Start to indicate where is the then later I'm gonna start to do a little bit more design on the mask, so we can kind of recognize that is a mask. especially in the profile, you know. You have the regulator there. Maybe push the color a bit more, so it can kind of break nice the silhouette. Then I try to give a rhythm, you know, between sharp edges, you know, soft edges. So it's a matter of you know, balance. When you have the overall thing that looks pretty good, start to push this thing that you found in the first rough sketch. Start to redefine, you know, make sure that everything starts to make sense. You know. This kind of curve now, nice. And the hand, you know, with the gloves, start to work on the gloves. The pose of the hand, you know, how he's holding the mask, but without losing obviously the proportion, you know, the shape. Maybe could hold it like this. Maybe you can come up just a tiny bit the arm. There are the folding here. Then you can redefine how is the tank. Maybe carving there. So yesterday, you can go really fast. You know, the first take is pretty fast, and when you go with the flow, it's really gestural. You know, for this, it's kind of really nice to get that approach. But then when you start to redefine everything, you know, it's more, you know, you have to take your time. You know, you have to think about it maybe a little bit more, where you make your compromise, when you make your choice, when you push your idea in a different direction. Because then I start to put a little bit more. No, before I did the shape, then I start to put a little bit more. You know, the wrinkle. You could have, you know, this one is pretty soft material, so it should kind of feel that way too. Then maybe, you know, emphasize even this kind of protection in the back. Maybe one area is coming out a little bit more, one area less. Then you know, maybe work on the mouth. The nose. Yeah, maybe this part here is where the number of the unit. Maybe we can push it a bit more. You know, each one has a different shape, so this can help you to push in another direction. Maybe this part could come out a little bit low, so we can kind of give a nice framing in the profile. you can start to draw even on top, like I told you yesterday. You know, how is the mask? Start to put some area here, some straps, so it looks like the tank is connected to the structure of the tank. And then later I'm gonna start to put maybe some cable. This could come out a little bit more on the profile, on the back. So you can kind of give a nice, even if it's not exactly the same, but at least we have the feeling that you know, looks like a tank. Maybe push it a little bit more there. Then later we can start to put some equipment there. The gauge for the tank. I can put maybe a strap there, underneath there. It goes behind. Start to indicate, you know, where you're gonna then feel the pressure of the belt there. And later we can start to put some. So those are all the things that they are at the end. You know, start to put a little more detailing. Make sure that everything kind of falling apart in place. Maybe this we can push just a tiny bit more. Then make sure that the strap goes in the right place, about direction. Maybe a pinch there in the jacket so I kind of give more, kind of feels more the pressure there. Maybe the area of the gluteus now kind of make it a little bit more angular, because there is a push here. There's a push between the hips. And then later I can start to put some, you know, some lines of the design of the jacket. Kind of reinforce the fold in there. Okay, just a tiny bit bigger there. Kind of push up the shape. And I can kind of put indentation there, because obviously the arm is bent. So I'm working a little bit more on the shape of the helmet here. Can give a little more volume there. I think it would be nicer on both sides. you start to get a little bit more the feeling, the right feeling. You know, sometimes you change the first sketch that you did, you know, but don't change too much, you know. Just always try to tell my student, you know, the first couple of days is when we do the foundation of everything, you know, and then when we are happy with the foundation, you know, try to keep it. You know, obviously we can change a little bit there, but you know, I didn't change a lot. The essence was there yesterday, so I just start to add a little bit more detailing here, maybe detailing there. So try to create a nice rhythm between the two parts. So about balance of forms and shapes. In nature, nothing is symmetrical. It looks symmetrical, but it's nothing symmetrical. And maybe the strap, I can kind of push it a bit more on the side. Put something there, here, like a strap, there, a strap, some straps. Maybe I can close, I can tighten up a little bit higher there, the jacket can go a little bit higher there. And this could kind of even fold in like this. Yeah, it is nice. Can create a nice rhythm there. It's kind of nice flow. I was checking the time. Got a pretty good. So maybe I can kind of adjust a little bit the boot there. Make sure that we feel, you know, the structure of the boot. Then we can do a nice overlapping there between the straps. The jacket, you know, maybe I can kind of push it a bit higher at this point. Yeah, it's better. I didn't lose this kind of nice diagonal there, but I kind of reinforced the area behind the neck. So it feels more like the color is bigger. You know? Maybe here I can put more. Maybe I can advance the arm with the wrinkle there. And then sometimes I was now do this kind of demo, but I'm stepping backward and start to read the sculpt from little bit far apart, little bit, so you can start to see the overall. It's easier to see the overall, the shape of the sculpture. It's easy to see how everything flow, everything goes. And then maybe this arm here, now that is bendy, I can kind of, this that I was turning, maybe I did a little bit too thick, so I can kind of reduce it like this. Make sure that we read where is the kind of elbow area. If it doesn't become too thick, if it becomes too thick, we can always kind of push it in or cut it. So I start to get a little bit better flow. So maybe this part here, when I turn it, we can kind of push this line like this, so it feels more like the grip of this kind of creating this kind of nice diagonal, this nice tension there. Then I'm gonna redefine a little bit more the area here. Make sure that the hand is visible. Start to make sense. Maybe this could be the regulator, and then the hand is gonna hold the mask like this, more underneath. Then we can kind of create a nice nice different shapes here. Create a nice rhythm between round shape and triangular shapes. Feel the mask that goes maybe a little bit below there. So basically the next step, we had like 2 hours. 2 hours I got to this point. Then I start to tight even more, go deeper in, but without changing, some of these marks that I put. So maybe we can kind of, start to cut some of the shapes, some of the lines, to make sure that it kind of give a nice rhythm. Like this. And maybe this plate can kind of, start to turn around the helmet. So it's a nice, maybe later we can put an amber, or we can put something, I don't know. Let's see. At least from the profile we have a nice convex shape. We can cut maybe a little bit more there. And then I use a lot of lighting. So it's nice when you have a strong light, so you can kind of see better when you rotate. You can see the shapes. You can see where the light is falling. So now I have I had this set up for the video, so it's not exactly what I will use, but you can get the idea. It's almost like when you do CG modeling, you can kind of do a nice setup for the lighting. So make sure that that you can lit your character, your CG character, or your traditional character in the same with the same thinking. So it's really important to lit, but especially to see when you sculpt the sculpture with the good lighting. Lighting is pretty fundamental. Try don't work in the shade. Some area I was working in the shade because of the position of the camera. But try when you work for a set. Usually I have a light from behind me, so I work from the other direction. But maybe I should. Yes, there was a stronger lighting. I kind of like to have a nice lighting from the window. So in the morning here it's pretty nice to work here in the studio. So I have a nice light coming through the window. So the next step is start to tight a little bit more the sculpture. Today we kind of redefine some area, make some measure, annotation on the sculpt, decide where to go with the overall feeling, and then make sure that everything looks pretty. It's pretty good from all different angles. Maybe the pocket we can kind of push it a bit more, so when we turn we can see better change of shape, the silhouette there. And now it just matters to go there and readjust some major form, major element. Maybe this pants, this folding, we can kind of push even more there. And then redefine the the structure, the tank, the straps. Later I'm gonna start to put more detailing at the end of the tank. Make sure you see where's the cable. Later I could kind of even indicate where's the where's the cable. Maybe a cable there. Also when you're thinking, maybe the cable can go like this, and then can go like this, and then I put a piece of wire and then I stick it there. Obviously, when you start stuff like when there are small details, most of the time I kind of separate for the main from the main sculpture because it's easier to cast. Make sure that you feel the pinch of the folding. Maybe reduce a little bit of this area here, so we can kind of elongate more the character. Yeah, here is where we are today, and then I'm gonna start to. I'm gonna post this video on YouTube. I'm gonna do like a little editing, and then so I can allow more people to see better. Because yesterday, I apologize for yesterday. The quality was really poor because I was doing in simultaneous. I was doing the streaming on YouTube and on Instagram. So I think the internet wasn't powerful enough to streaming, and I'm gonna post it there, and then maybe I'll stay tuned. And maybe if I have some time tomorrow, I'm gonna if you guys want to join me again tomorrow, we can kind of maybe finalize everything, or at least we can go closer to a final stage. And then I will finish the sculpt, and then I will post, even if tomorrow you can make it, but I'm gonna finish and post the final sculpt with picture and. Maybe a little video, maybe a little editing, but so this is the kind of overall when I start to tighten up the sculpture, when I start to go deeper and redefine some area that I want to put more effort, I want to emphasize more in some particular area, and then obviously depending on from project to project, you go even further, or some other project you can kind of step back until you find a nice balance with the overall, with the message that you want to tell, and maybe it looks when you're happy, you can call it done. Then obviously here I was looking now, and then when you turn, you can start to give some overlapping to the jacket, so it feels like there's a pinch there, there's an overlay there. So maybe this part of the jacket we can kind of push a little bit out. So when we turn, we have a nice, nice shadow that create more like the three-dimensionality, kind of push more the three-dimensionality. And we go from there. Maybe I start to put a little bit more this portion of the character, just put the eyelid. And yeah, I can call it down for today. 'Cause, I was kind of set down to do 1 hour. And yeah, that's it. And I hope to see you maybe tomorrow. I'm gonna post on Instagram if I'm gonna do another lesson, another class. And yeah, take care and thank you for joining me. Bye.